This episode is brought to you by Pinnacle Pathways. I'm Arya.
And I'm Yuvam, and we're the founders of Pinnacle Pathways, a youth led initiative built to help teenagers and young professionals navigate their way through the ever evolving corporate landscape.
At Pinnacle Pathways, our mission is to bridge the gap between education and industry. We aim to equip students with the real world skills, insights, and exposure they need to thrive not just academically but professionally.
Through interviews with industry leaders, hands on learning opportunities, and personalized guidance, we're building a platform where youth are not just participants but leaders of tomorrow's workforce.
We believe in the power of meaningful conversations, and that's exactly what we bring you through this podcast. So, whether you're a student, an aspiring entrepreneur, or just curious about how industries really work, this is your space.
Let's dive into today's episode and get ready to uncover insights that could shape the future of your career and mindset.
The only limit to our realization of tomorrow is our doubts of today. Good morning and welcome to the Pinnacle Pathways Podcast. Today, we are exploring the dynamic journey of professional transformation, blending insights from an MBA experience, lessons from a consulting background, and universal career wisdom that applies to every aspiring leader. Joining us is Karan Mehta, an MBA candidate at NYU Stern, a seasoned management consultant with significant experience in digital and business strategy, and a proven problem solver who's delivered impact across the lower Gulf region. Karan's journey is a testament to continuous growth, strategic reinvention, and the power of a forward thinking mindset. So, to begin with, can you share what inspired you to pursue an MBA at NYU and how this decision aligns with your long term vision for leadership and growth?
First of all, thank you, Vinay, for having me here. Happy to share my insights, and I'm very happy that you guys are doing this for the community. I think it's quite important for people to know early on to start planning ahead. So, to answer your question, what pursued me to do an MBA? It was always a part of the plan, like ever since high school and then undergrad. Um, I wanted, when I was in third year of my undergrad, I realized that consulting is what I want to do in the future. Luckily, that's what I began with. After 5 years of work experience, usually in consulting, it's a natural path to get into an MBA program and then come back to consulting. Or you can go somewhere else as well, depending on your goals. But what is an MBA, right? Let's establish that first, so that then we can understand why one pursues that. In the simplest terms, MBA teaches you how to be a better manager.
Okay.
That's the simplest form of why people do an MBA. So after 4 or 5 years of experience, you start managing smaller teams, you start managing projects in the consulting field, right? And by then you reach like an assistant manager level, and then there is a skill that you want to build on top of that. So you already have certain skills in like leadership, you have technical skills, you have analytical thinking skills, you have all of these skills that are at a certain level. But to be a better manager, you want to increase those skills a little more, right? And the best way to do that and upskill yourself is by education. So that's why most people get into an MBA, so that then they can learn how to increase all of those skills and then become a better manager. So that was the reason I pursued it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first, your work for 5 years for building your basic skills and having an experience, and the MBA is to upskill yourself.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's an inspiring start. Next, moving forward, reflecting on your diverse professional journey, what key experiences, whether in consulting or earlier roles, do you believe prepared you for an MBA experience?
Well, that's quite a lot, actually. I mean, working for 5 years, there's a lot of stuff that you do which you haven't done before, right? Like every project teaches you something new. And going through all of those challenges in the corporate world really equips you to then be at a level where you can say, okay, this is what I know really well, this is what I don't know. So now I want to learn this stuff. So that's why you do like an MBA, or you do your own courses, or you get training that your company offers you
Right.
as well. So yeah.
All right. Thank you for that perspective. Next, for your young professionals listening today, what does career transformation mean to you? And why is it important to continually reinvent yourself in today's fast changing world?
Career transformation. It's quite a broad term, but career transformation is basically if you're in one path and you want to switch to another career or accelerate that career further, or you're in that one industry, you want to continue in that industry, but that industry has multiple sectors and you want to shift a sector, that can also be career transformation. There can also be geographical career transformation. So if you're doing something in Dubai and you want to do the same thing in New York, you can do that as well.
Right.
So three things I think embody a career transformation, which is industry change, sector change, or geographical change, right? So if you want to do any of these three, I would call it a career transformation, right? And what was the second question? Why is that? Why is it important?
Why is it important?
Why is it
to
important,
continually
right?
reinvent yourself?
So it's important, obviously, because when you start off after the undergrad, right, like you have a very naive perspective of the corporate world. You think that this is how it's going to be. It's going to be like rosy
Right.
and rainbows and butterflies. But the reality is sometimes different, right? After a few years of work experience, you really understand how the world operates, how the corporate world operates. You also sort of self-reflect a lot, and you understand who you are as a person, what exactly you want to achieve, how do you want to add impact to the world. So when it comes to career transformation, right, that realization is very important, because if you don't have that realization, you'll never know where to go in the future. But if you have that realization, then you can take charge and decide that, okay, this career that I've done so far was great for XYZ reasons, but moving forward, I want to do something different. And an MBA is like a launch pad for you to do that, right? Like a lot of people, if they want to move geographically, they go to an MBA school that is based in the country that they want to be based out of. So if I want to move to the US, for example, I will go to an MBA school in the US. If I want to go to the UK, same thing. If I want to go to Singapore, same thing, right? Also, there are some business schools, MBA schools, that are very industry focused. Like, for example, for consulting, there are a few business schools that are the best. So if anybody who wanted to get into consulting, but for whatever reason did not break into consulting after their undergrad, they can always do an MBA from a school that focuses very heavily on consulting, and then go into consulting, right? So that is that industry change that I was talking about. Then third is sector change, right? So sector change means if I'm already in consulting, if I'm doing technology consulting and I want to move into strategy consulting, that's a sector change. So for that, I mean, every business school sort of helps you do that, really. And basically, it's like, if you want to move that sector, you need to gain some sort of technical competency, right? Like if I know technology consulting really well so far and I want to move into strategy, I need to upskill myself specifically on strategy, right? So that is also something that you can do. But either ways, career transformation, I mean, the world is always evolving. Your goals are always evolving. So, I mean, I would keep the world second. First is self-reflection, right? Always, like, you need to understand what exactly you want to do. And that always keeps changing. Like, what you want to do right now as high school students, you might not want to do that like 5 years down the line. And at that point, you might want to switch to something else.
So the MBA is a way to do that.
Exactly.
Right. That's an excellent advice. Next, how was your experience at NYU Stern challenge you intellectually and personally? And what unique insights have you gained from this experience?
An MBA is a pressure test. It literally is. Like, I know, like, when you're in school, you think like board exams are tough, and getting into IIT is like a massive challenge.
It is.
It is. I'm not downplaying that.
I know,
But
we think it is.
yeah.
We think it is. We think.
Yeah, but then you get into an MBA, especially like if you get into a 1 year MBA compared to a 2 year MBA, it's so accelerated because they're cramming that entire 2 year syllabus and finishing it off in 1 year. So every day you have so much work that you really have to make yourself more efficient. You have to learn time management to another level. You also have to not just study, you also have to socialize, which is a very important part of your MBA because everyone's your age, everyone's there with like certain goals and dreams. It's a fantastic place to network. Uh, Everyone that is in your class is going to be a future CEO, right? At least that's what their goal is,
Right.
and a lot of them will reach there. So you need to spend time in that relationship building as well. So how do you do all of that? It seems like so much on your plate, right? So that is why I call it a pressure test, because that is what really gives you some perspective that what I've been doing so far, I need to now level up
Okay.
to match the expectations of this course or curriculum, right? So that really helps. I mean, forget about the technical knowledge that you gain or whatever. It's just so much self reflection, and self reflection is the key to move forward. Like if you
Right.
don't continuously self improve, then you can't really move forward.
Right.
So yeah, number one thing that MBA does is help you do that self reflection and that self improvement.
Okay. Yeah. So time management, building soft skills, and self-reflection. That's
Yeah.
excellent. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Let's move towards practical applications. Can you share an example of how you have applied classroom theories to solve real-world challenges, whether through projects or case studies, that has reshaped your thinking?
I mean, how it has helped me change the way I work is I can't really comment on that at the moment because I'm still like in
Right.
the first 2 months of an MBA.
Right.
I'll only find that out once I graduate, I guess. But just off the bat, there are so many things that feel relevant, right? Like, I mean, the first semester that we had, we learned microeconomics. We also learned macroeconomics. We also learned um, leadership through a lot of case studies. And that really, really helps because what you're doing is, in case you don't know what a case study is, it's like a 30-page document that one of these business school professors write, and they write about a real world challenge. For example, right now the case study that I'm doing in class is Walmart versus Amazon, how they competed against each other in 2017 to break into the online grocery business as well as offline grocery business. And there were a lot of decisions that executives from Walmart and Amazon had to take in order to keep their relevance high, right? There are a lot of challenges that they faced internally as well, and how they overcame those challenges.
Okay.
So when you learn about stuff like this and you know that this is something that has taken place in the real world, it gives you a lot of, it opens up your mind in ways that you may not have thought of before, right? Like um, you think that there is only one way to solve a problem, but then you realize no, there is like
There are other ways.
500 other ways to solve a problem.
Right.
And you go into the class with when you read that 30-page document, at the end of that 30-page document, there's one question always, like, what should have the Walmart CEO done differently in this situation to maintain their competitive edge, right? And you go in with one perspective, but then there are 50 other people in the class that come in with their own perspective. And then
Right.
everybody shares their perspective. And then you realize that, whoa, there is so many ways to solve the same thing, right? And that really opens up your mind.
Opens
like,
up your mind.
And
Yeah.
when you go into the real world, it translates like directly, right? I mean, that's why you want to build teams in your organization which are diverse, because everybody comes in with like a new perspective, and the more perspective you have internally, the better your decision making
Right.
becomes.
That's right.
So yeah.
Okay. Your insights are great. That's it. Okay. Considering your background in management consulting, What strategic frameworks or problem solving approaches have you found most valuable uh, in your current MBA studies?
That's a great question. Let's break down what consulting is first.
Okay.
I think that's important for like the audience that's
Right.
listening, because consulting sounds like a buzzword, but I feel like a lot of people don't know exactly what happens in consulting. So just to make it clear, like consulting is basically, think of yourself as a doctor but for organizations, right?
Okay.
If an organization is going through any problem and they don't know how to solve it,
Right.
they call in consultants, and the consultants find what is going wrong, what is the best way to move forward, how can they build synergies with the existing business or additional partnerships, etc. So it's basically solving problems, any and all sorts of problems, right? It could be revenue related problems. Let's say a company is not generating as much revenue as it wants to, or the revenue is going down 50% year on year. They call in consultants to help them, understand what they can do better to increase those revenues. A lot of times internal management does not really have that perspective on how to solve things, because they're so involved in the granular level that it's tough to like take one step back and strategically look at everything. So that's why they also use external help through consultants. So that's what consulting is basically. Consulting has a lot of frameworks, as you rightly asked in your question. One of the biggest frameworks that I've learned in consulting is the approach to solving a problem, which is breaking down a very complex problem into smaller sub steps,
Right.
which are very easily solvable, right? So that is, I mean, the consulting framework that everybody sort of implicitly talks about, because in the market as well, like there a lot of people prefer hiring consultants. The reason is because they're so equipped with facing any challenge, because the framework remains the same, the base underlying framework. On top of that, like, I mean, there's nuances and like things that you can sort of modify and change here and there. But when you understand that mindset, when you like build that base foundation very strong, then you can like start solving problems very easily. So it always starts with assessing the current state, right? So we call it the current state assessment in the consulting world, right? So it's understanding and deep diving into what is causing the problem. For example, if the revenues or profit is declining in an organization, right? What exactly is causing that, right? That could be because revenues are decreasing or costs are increasing, right? Then that's the current state assessment. You find more about what's causing that. The second phase is target state design. Target state design means, where does the organization want to be in the future?
Okay.
What exactly is the target? Yes, we understand that the profits are declining, but by, let's say, next year or in the next 5 years, how much do you want those profits to be?
Okay.
Is it an increase in 50 million? Is it an increase in 75 million? What exactly is that target? Right? So it's about defining that target very clearly with the client or with the stakeholder that you're consulting. Then you work towards bridging that gap between the current state and the target state. And how exactly do you do that, right? So that's the third step. And the final step is something called an implementation roadmap. Implementation roadmap is basically key steps that an organization can take in order to achieve its target. So that is the base framework. Let's go through it again. So it's current state analysis, target state design, and implementation roadmap. And every problem can be solved through this framework, right? Obviously, like the more experience you have, the better you get at using this framework, because although it sounds like something that can be commonly used across all organizations, and it can, but depending on the industry, depending on the client's desire of the target state, depending on the external forces, a lot of things change, and you need to be aware of like a lot of different things. So yeah, in terms of framework, that is very, very helpful, but it all comes down to like how you use it.
All right. Yeah. Bringing. Okay. Next. Moving forward, could you walk us through what a typical day looks like for you as an MBA candidate? What routines help you balance rigorous academics, as you mentioned? Could
Yeah.
you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So I generally wake up at like 7:30 a.m. My classes start at 9.
Okay.
So I like giving myself that 1.5 hours in the morning where I'm able to like sort of, take my time in getting ready, prepare myself in terms of what I need to do for the day. If there is anything that I need to read before class, I generally use that morning half an hour or so to like familiarize myself with the
Right.
content so that I can, be a little more equipped to understand what's going on in the class. Um, so that's my morning routine. Then we have classes every day from 9 o'clock to 4:30 in the
Okay.
afternoon. So it's 3 hours. So it's 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Then we have a lunch break for
Right.
1.5 hours,
Okay.
and then from 1:30 to 4:30
4:30.
is our second lecture.
Mhm.
So we have 2 lectures per day, 3 hours each. So it's
Mhm.
6 hours of just classes every day.
Right.
4:30 onwards, everyone's sort of free to do like whatever they want to prioritize. Every day looks very different because there are so many assignments, exams, a lot of social plans as well. You also want to keep yourself fit physically, mentally, etc. So you prioritize, gymming or going for a swim, going for a run, etc. So every day is sort of different, and it's like a constant sort of juggle of what to prioritize first, what to do second, what to do third, right? Um, so it completely depends on the day. So 4:30 onwards, I think most people's brain power shuts down because they've been in class for like
Right.
6 hours.
Mhm.
So at that point, studying is very, very
It
difficult.
is. It
So
is.
people usually take a break, go to the gym, or just go back home, like uh, eat something, just basically do whatever that you need to do to like relax
Right.
and recharge yourself for
Right.
the next 1.5 hours. Right after that, you sort of get back into studying. If there's an assignment that you have to do, then you have to do that. There are a lot of case studies that you have to read as well, and they're 30 pages long, so they're not like something that you can do before class. You have to like plan ahead. 30 pages, like, I mean, that takes 2 hours to read at least. So you need to sort of manage, when do I read that?
Right.
Or sometimes you also have to do a lot of group projects. So you have to decide with your group when exactly you're going to meet. If you're going to meet, virtually, then that sort of takes up like a significant amount of time as
Right.
well. But an important thing is, whatever you do in MBA needs to be quick.
Right.
You can't spend a lot of time pondering how I'll do this, or like what is, you can't go into like super minute details of why am I doing this? Is this the right way of doing it? Blah, blah, blah. You have to be quick, you have to be efficient. Perfection is something that you let it take a back step, right? Because if you want to perfect your report or assignment that you're making, it'll take like a really long time. So the way it's better to do is, you focus on quick wins, right? So whatever you can do really quickly, you get that done.
Right.
Even if it's like 60% of the report, if you can do within 1 hour, do it. And then you spend like the next 1 or 2 days to refine that. But a lot of people make that mistake, especially like new MBAs, that they go super detailed very early on. So they want to perfect that report 100%, and they realize that they've spent like 2 days doing it, and they still haven't reached even close to like perfection. So yeah, that's something that I also learned in like the hard way in the first couple of weeks.
Right.
But yeah, that's what a typical day looks like. And then after that, I mean, I haven't touched upon like what we do in the night. I mean, also it completely depends. Um, Generally, we have dinner with a friend or like with a group, because everyone's on campus. Uh, Everybody eats at sort of the same time, so it makes sense to use that time to socialize and bond. And then post dinner, again, like you read something or like you work on something, and then you sleep, and then you repeat the same thing next day.
Right. And how about weekends?
Weekends are also, I mean, Depends again. Some weekends are like you end up working the entire weekend because you have exams in the next
Right.
week, right? So in that case, you just study or like get some work done. Um, on some weekends where it's a little more chill, uh, I come to Dubai, or like my friends go back to uh, where their family
Right.
lives. I mean, locally. I
Right.
mean, the international students obviously don't get that luxury to go back home on the weekends. Um, but yeah, if people are in Abu Dhabi, then we sort of, at least there's some social plan always happening. People are going out or to each other's houses, going out
Right.
for dinners, lunches, etc. So yeah, it just really differs from weekend to weekend.
That routine sounds both disciplined and dynamic. Next, your consulting experience must have honed your analytical skills. How has this background refined your approach to making strategic decisions?
Hmm. Yeah, so building on the framework that I earlier mentioned, that three-step framework, there's a lot of analysis that goes into all three aspects, right? Number one is what's really useful for the client, right? That is where the real analysis comes in, because you can obviously leverage a lot of like chat GPT these days, or like you can find all sorts of solutions across like all kinds of AI platforms, right? But usually that's never good enough. You really need to add that human perspective, because you know what the client wants.
Right.
Like, you've been in meetings with them at least a few times before you start recommending solutions to them, so you know where they're coming from. And listening is like a very key skill, right? Because you might be saying a lot of things, but there's a way I can read between the lines as well.
Right.
So what is that underlying emotion that they're coming from, or what's the intent of doing this, or what exactly is the broader vision that they're trying to achieve?
Right.
So you have to take all of that into consideration and sort of build that solution that's robust and holds up against like all sorts of challenges that the client might question. um, so yeah, I mean, it just going through that journey really builds that, because when you start off as a new consultant, I started off as an intern, right? um, your your perspective of the world is different. Like, you think that when you're in school, when you're in like undergrad, a lot of like very ambitious things you tend to like put into your reports, right? Like, yeah, we'll do this and we'll do that, like we'll achieve X number of growth in like the first 6 months. But then a lot of times that's not realistic. So you need to like take a lot of guidance from your seniors, your managers, um, and really commit to like understanding how things are done. So yeah, I mean, that's how you build that analytical skills.
Right.
But of course, academics also very, very seriously helps in building that analytical skill, especially if you're good with numbers. It really helps, because your brain is wired in a way where you think very rationally, right? um, and that rational thinking sort of helps in analytical
Right.
thinking. So yeah, those are the couple of ways you build on it.
Expectations over reality. All right. One last question. As we conclude, if there's one actionable piece of advice you'd like our listeners to implement immediately on their journey to leadership and career transformation, what would it be?
To leadership and career transformation, um, there's so much actually. I mean, there's no one advice, but if I
The
had to
best advice. Yeah.
prioritize, I would say invest a lot of time in self-reflection.
Okay.
There's this one class that we took, which is called Leadership in Organizations, right, in the MBA program. And we saw a lot of different kinds of leadership styles. We saw a lot of different kinds of really good leaders. We read a lot of case studies on them. There was one underlying theme that was common between all sorts of leaders. It was the best leaders are the ones that self reflect and constantly grow and improve themselves. So it's really, really important to understand your strengths. It's really important to also understand your improvement areas. And there should always be a constant voice in your head that is debating if I'm doing this correctly or if I'm doing this very efficiently. If yes, great. How can I do it even more efficiently? If not, who can I seek advice from? Or who can I talk to that can teach me this stuff?
Right.
Or what can I read that can teach me this stuff? But self-reflection is what helps us in every aspect of life. And
Right.
that is the thing that really helps us grow. If it's academics or career or personal life, whatever, self-reflection is key. And that mindset, which is a constant self-improvement, that is also key. You have to always focus on thinking about the future, right? It can never be that you can never settle and say that, yeah, I'm happy with where I've achieved now. I'm
Right.
satisfied. Like that's not the right way to live, right? You always have to grow and transform yourself. So, yeah, those are my two biggest advices: self-reflection and self-improvement.
Especially in today's fast-changing world, we have to grow at every step.
Absolutely.
All right, Karan. Sir, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast today. Your journey from leveraging your consulting expertise to embracing the MBA experience at NYU Stern serves as a beacon for anyone seeking to reinvent their career and lead with vision. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in into this episode of Pinnacle Pathways Podcast. We hope you have gained fresh perspectives on career transformation and strategic leadership. Remember to subscribe for more inspiring stories and actionable advice. Until next time, keep learning, keep evolving, and keep pushing your boundaries.
And that brings us to the end of our podcast. A huge thank you to our guests for sharing such valuable insights and to all of you for tuning in.
At Pinnacle Pathways, our mission is to empower the next generation of professionals. And conversations like these are a powerful step in that direction.
This podcast is proudly produced by us, Yuva Menaria, as part of our commitment to bridging the gap between education and the corporate world.
Today's episode sparked a new perspective, helped you to learn something, or simply made you think. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And make sure to connect with us on social media for updates, resources, and more content designed to help you thrive in the real world.
Until next time, remember to keep innovating, captivating,
and elevating your way to the pinnacle.